To conceal my identity as an assassin, I married a man who couldn't even bring himself to kill a spider. I remember the day perfectly. It was a Tuesday. I had just returned from a 3-day business trip in Prague, which actually involved dismantling a human trafficking ring and putting a bullet through the skull of a corrupt diplomat. I was exhausted, smelling of jet fuel and the lingering, metallic scent of adrenaline. I walked into our pristine suburban kitchen to find Nathan standing on a chair, wielding a rolled-up magazine like a shield, his face pale with terror. "Anya!" "Thank God," he squeaked, pointing a trembling finger at the corner of the ceiling. It's a monster." It looked at me. I looked up. A house spider, barely the size of a quarter, sat motionless on the crown molding. "You're a grown man, Nathan," I sighed, dropping my bag. "It has too many legs, honey. Please. I already made lasagna, but I can't take it out of the oven until the perimeter is secure." I suppressed a smile. This was why I married him. In a world of blood, betrayal, and men who looked at me like a piece of meat or a target, Nathan was pure. He was soft. He was safe. I grabbed a tissue, climbed onto the counter, and crushed the spider with a quick, merciless pinch. I flushed it down the sink. "My hero," Nathan breathed, hopping down and wrapping his arms around my waist. He buried his face in my neck, smelling of basil and expensive cologne. "I don't know what I'd do without you." I kissed his forehead. "You'd probably be eaten alive, baby." If only you knew, I thought. If only you knew that the hands holding you just snapped a man's neck 6 hours ago. My life was a tightrope walk over a pit of fire. I was Nix, a top-tier contractor for the guild. But to Nathan, I was Anya, a logistics consultant who traveled frequently for high-end import-export firms. It was a boring enough cover to stop questions, but vague enough to explain the odd hours. 2 months later, the cracks began to show. Not in my cover, but in my composure. I had just finished a job in downtown Manhattan. The target was a hedge fund manager selling state secrets to insurgents. I strangled him with his own silk tie in a penthouse bathroom. It was messy, he fought back. I ended up shoving the tie into my coat pocket in a rush to rappel down the side of the brownstone before security breached the door. A black Aston Martin was idling at the curb. I slid into the passenger seat, my heart rate finally dropping from 160 to a resting 60. Lilith, my handler and getaway driver, tossed a pack of wet wipes into my lap without looking away from the road. She was chewing gum, popping bubbles with annoying regularity. "Clean up," she said. "You've got blood under your fingernail." I wiped my hands, the sharp scent of antiseptic cutting through the city air. My phone buzzed. Nathan had sent a selfie. It was a playful shot of him in the kitchen, wearing nothing but the "Kiss the Cook" apron I got him for Christmas. He was holding a wooden spoon like a microphone, mid-song. My expression softened instantly. "Hey, baby," I said, bringing the phone to my ear. "Wait up for me, okay? Got held up at work, but I'm on my way." From the driver's seat, Lilith made an exaggerated gagging noise. "God, Anya. You're disgusting. You're supposed to be the angel of death, not a soccer mom." "It's embarrassing." A small smile played on my lips. "If you had a husband as sweet as mine waiting at home with a hot meal, you'd be just like me." "I like my men dangerous," Lilith scoffed. "Not, whatever a Nathan is. He's half American, half British, with a ridiculously handsome face and a heart of gold," I defended him. He has soft black hair, a gentle nature, and a chest I could get lost in. He's my anchor, Lilith. He keeps me human. When I walked through the door an hour later, the house was dark. Honey? You're finally home, Nathan murmured. He appeared from the shadows of the hallway, looking distressed. The light in the living room went out. It made a popping noise. I didn't want to touch the wiring. I was scared I'd electrocute myself. I melted into his embrace. Don't worry. I've got it. I hopped onto a chair and swapped out the dead bulb. For a woman whose personal best for blind assembling a Desert Eagle is 22 seconds, it was child's play. But my helpless husband looked at me with pure, unadulterated awe. You're amazing, Anya. I leaned down and kissed him. In my eyes, a man who could conjure up the beef bourguignon laid out on our dining table was the amazing one. We sat down to eat. The wine was poured, the candles lit. So, what did you get up to today, baby? I asked, cutting into the tender meat. Nathan paused, a fork halfway to his mouth. A strange, unreadable flicker passed through his eyes, gone so fast I almost missed it. He smiled, that dazzling, boyish smile. Oh, you know. Watered the plants. Did a deep clean of the master bath. Read some poetry. Then I started prepping for dinner. He was so simple. So uncomplicated. I couldn't resist. I stood up, walked around the table, and wrapped my arms around his neck from behind, whispering in his ear. Dinner's over. Ready for dessert? He turned in his chair, his hands finding my waist. He stood up, scooping me into his arms effortlessly. But just as his fingers began undoing the buttons of my shirt, he froze. His hand brushed my coat pocket. You said you were working late, he said, his voice suddenly tight. The playful atmosphere evaporated, replaced by a cold tension. Does working late now involve getting a man's tie stuffed in your pocket? My blood ran cold. He reached in and pulled out the wrinkled, navy blue silk tie. The murder weapon. Nathan held it up. His eyes welled with tears. His hand started to shake. What did I do wrong? He choked out. Why would you need someone else? Is it because I don't have a job? I have savings, Anya. A lot. It's all yours. Please, don't leave me. He thought I was having an affair. Relief washed over me so hard I almost laughed. He didn't see a murder weapon, he saw a trophy from a lover. Nathan, no, I tried to explain, but his words were punctuated by desperate, ragged breaths. He buried his face in my chest, sobbing. I can be better, he wept. I'll learn to fix the lights. I'll kill the spiders. Just don't go to him. My heart broke. I kissed his hair, his wet cheeks. Sure. It's not what you think. But I couldn't tell him the truth. So I just held him tighter. Part 2, the $1 million contract. The next morning, I did damage control. I took the entire week off. I cleared my schedule. I cooked, badly, for him. I insisted that I loved him, only him, and that the tie belonged to a creepy coworker named Steve, who had tried to force it on me as a weird joke. A creep? Nathan asked, chopping vegetables with a rhythmic thud-thud-thud. He harassed you? Yes. But he has no chance. I can't stand those cold, robotic corporate guys. I only love you. You make me want to protect you. Nathan's hand, which had been struggling to open a jar of artisanal tomato sauce, suddenly stilled. "Honey." He handed the jar to me, looking defeated. "I can't get it. My wrists are weak today." I popped the lid open with a simple twist. He gazed at me, eyes filled with that familiar adoration. "You're so strong." I looked at him, gripped by a sudden intensity. "Nathan, listen to me. If I ever betray you, cheat on you, hurt you, you can beat me soundly and then divorce me." I felt him smile against my cheek as he hugged me. His voice was soft, almost a vibration in his chest. "No," he whispered. "I'd kill him. We'd never get divorced." I laughed. "Okay, Tiger. You'd kill him." The idea of Nathan killing anyone was laughable. This was a man who apologized to the toaster when he bumped into it. My vacation ended abruptly when Lilith started screaming at me through the secure comms unit hidden in my earring. "You're already short-handed and you dare to go off-grid for a week? Can you stop hovering over that house husband of yours for 5 minutes?" I sighed, locking the bathroom door. I couldn't be bothered to argue. She would never understand this kind of happiness. "Anything big on the horizon?" "Our first wedding anniversary is next month," I added before she could answer. "I need cash. I want to buy him that vintage Patek Philippe he was looking at. It's 40 grand. Lilith muttered something about me being whipped before her tone turned sly. "Actually, there is something. $1 million bounty. But, it's complicated." "I don't care about complicated. I care about the payout." "It's already been claimed," Lilith said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "By Orbit." Orbit. The air in the bathroom seemed to drop 10 degrees. Every killer knew the name. He was a ghost. A legend. An insurmountable force of nature. He owed loyalty to no organization, no flag, no creed. His only allegiance was to the contract. It didn't matter if the target was a president, a warlord, or another elite assassin. If Orbit took the job, the target was already dead, they just didn't know it yet. He had no face. Just a record of impossible shots and locked room kills. "I don't care," I said, checking my reflection in the mirror. "There aren't many people who can outbid me or outshoot me. If he hasn't killed the target yet, the contract is still open game." "You have a death wish," Lilith hissed. "Remember 5 years ago? You tried to poach a contract from him in Berlin. You ended up watching your target's head explode from 600 meters away. You never even saw Orbit's shadow." "I was young and arrogant," I said. "Now? I'm motivated. I have a mortgage and a husband with expensive taste in wine." "Who's the target?" "Kavi," Lilith said, 38 years old. Persian-British dual citizen. Billionaire, philanthropist. The medical investor? "The monster," Lilith corrected. "Under the guise of medical research, Kavi funds illegal human experimentation. Eyes, organs, limbs. He's in Las Vegas right now for a private auction." I felt a surge of cold fury. "Send me the dossier." "There's a rumor," Lilith added, hesitating. "Intel says Orbit turned down a $5 million contract last month. Said he needed to focus on his family and cut back on the rough stuff. People think he's retiring." I snorted. "Orbit? Family? The man is a machine. He probably recharges in a socket at night. He doesn't have a family. Just be careful, Nix." Part 3, The Sticks Club. The Sticks Club was not on any map of Las Vegas. It was buried 3 stories beneath a nondescript laundry facility on the outskirts of the Strip. It was the playground of the devil, where the world's wealthiest criminals came to gamble with money that had blood on it. I stood behind a blackjack table, my face hidden by a stark white porcelain mask that covered everything but my eyes. I was dressed in a tight black gown that allowed for movement but screamed elegance. I dealt cards with fluid, hypnotic motions. Everyone here, patrons and staff, was masked. It was policy. Anonymity was the currency. The target, Kavi, was sitting at my table. He was disgusting even behind his gold leaf mask. He smelled of cloying musk and arrogance. He was surrounded by 4 bodyguards who looked like they chewed concrete for breakfast. Taking him out here would be suicide. Unless I got him alone. I waited patiently. My fingers flew, shuffling and cutting the deck. Hit me, Kavi grunted. In the seamless arc of the cards, I made my move. I dealt from the bottom of the deck. An ace. It landed perfectly in Kavi's hand. I let him win. Again. And again. You're a lucky charm, darling, Kavi leered, sliding a chip toward me. I needed him confident. I needed him relaxed. But something was wrong. Despite me feeding cards to Kavi, he wasn't the big winner at the table. One man was cleaning everyone out. He sat at the far end of the semicircle. He wore an impeccably tailored black velvet suit that absorbed the light. On his lapel, an emerald brooch caught the dim glow with a predatory glint. He wore a simple, matte black mask. No matter how much he won, his demeanor never changed. He was a statue of calm indifference. His hands. I watched his hands. They were elegant, long-fingered, stacking chips with a slow, deliberate precision that made my skin crawl. There was no joy in his winning. It was just math to him. He knew I was cheating for Kavi. He had to. Every time I dealt a rigged card to Kavi, the man in black would hit or stand in a way that statistically shouldn't have worked, but did. He was counter-cheating me without ever touching the deck. Who was he? Suddenly, the lights in the casino died. Pitch blackness engulfed the room. Screams of surprise rippled through the crowd, but were cut short by a smooth voice echoing from the overhead speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sticks Club's Midnight Masquerade. A single, dark gold spotlight illuminated a dance floor on the far side of the cavernous room. Soft, haunting jazz began to play. A dance? Kavi laughed, standing up. Well, I suppose I should find a partner. This was my chance. I would lure him to the dance floor, slip a needle into his neck, and disappear before his body hit the ground. I stepped out from behind the table. My hand slipped into the hidden slit of my dress, fingers brushing the cold hilt of my ceramic knife. I took a step toward Kavi. And then, a presence materialized behind me. I didn't hear him. I felt the displacement of air. An icy point of metal pressed sharply against the small of my back. Don't move. The voice was low. A monotone baritone, utterly devoid of emotion. But it vibrated through my bones. Every nerve in my body screamed threat. Alpha threat. The Sticks has a no firearms policy, I whispered, keeping my eyes forward. You fire that gun, and security will turn you into a sieve. Is that so? The man replied. His tone was flat, bored. Feel free to test it. It was the man in the black velvet suit. "Walk," he commanded. "To the service corridor. Left." I had two choices. Try to disarm him, 50/50th chance of death, or comply and look for an opening. I walked. He guided me through the club's internal corridors. What terrified me was the reaction of the staff. Every security guard, every pit boss we passed, they didn't stop him. They stepped aside. They bowed their heads. They averted their gaze. My stomach sank. I wasn't just in trouble. I was in the lion's den. We reached the end of a long hallway and entered a private suite that looked more like a palace than an office. He kicked the door shut behind us, knocking out a dealer and taking her place. Rigging the deck for coffee. "You have fast hands," he said, holstering his weapon, a custom Glock with a silencer. He walked to the wet bar and poured himself a glass of water. He didn't even look at me. The arrogance was suffocating. "If I'd known you were the owner of the sticks, I would have fed you the winning hands," I said, forcing a seductive lilt into my voice. He turned. Behind the black mask, his eyes were as cold as frost. "I respect talent," he said. "So I'll give you the courtesy of knowing why you're about to die. You interfered with my hunt." Nix. My blood froze. He knew my code name. The owner of the sticks is Orbit, I realized aloud. Shit. If I had known this was his territory, I would have stayed in the suburbs and baked cookies. "We're in the same business," I said, my muscles coiling. "Can't we talk this out? Professional courtesy." "I don't have colleagues," Orbit said. "I have obstacles." I moved. I drew the miniature pistol from my thigh holster. It was a blur of motion, a draw that took less than 0.4 seconds. But Orbit was faster. He didn't even draw his gun. He kicked. A high, brutal snap kick that sent my pistol flying across the room. I didn't pause. I spun, drawing my knife, slashing at his throat. He caught my wrist. His grip was like a steel vise. He twisted, using my own momentum to slam me into the mahogany desk. Pain exploded in my shoulder, but I rolled over the desk, grabbing a silver dinner fork from a fruit platter. I threw it like a dart. Orbit jerked his head to the side. The tines grazed his cheek, tearing the strap of his black mask. It fluttered loose, hanging by one ear. He looked annoyed. He lunged. We traded blows in the center of the room. It was violence as art. He knew Krav Maga, Systema, and styles I couldn't even name. He was stronger, faster, and utterly silent. He didn't grunt with effort. He didn't breathe hard. He caught me in a chokehold. I stomped on his instep, drove an elbow into his ribs. He didn't flinch. He threw me onto the couch. Before I could rise, he was on me. He pinned my wrists above my head with one hand. The Glock was back in his other hand, the barrel pressed cold against the center of my forehead. My porcelain mask had cracked in the fight. A large piece fell away, revealing my eyes and the bridge of my nose. "Any last words?" Orbit asked. I stared up at him, my chest heaving. I was going to die. I would never see Nathan again. I would never give him that watch. I would never hear him sing in the kitchen again. "Nathan," I whispered. It was the only word that mattered. Orbit froze. The gun didn't waver, but his head tilted slightly. And then I saw it. His shirt had been torn open during the grapple. A silver chain hung around his neck. And dangling from that chain, catching the light of the chandelier, was a ring. A simple, platinum band. With an inscription on the inside, "To my anchor." It was the wedding ring I had given my husband. My brain short-circuited. The world stopped spinning. "That ring," I choked out, my eyes widening. Orbit followed my gaze. He looked down at the ring on his chest. Then he looked back at me. He reached up and ripped the remains of his black mask off his face. Dark, messy hair fell over his forehead. A ridiculously handsome face, usually soft and smiling, now hard as granite. It was Nathan. My sweet, clumsy, spider-fearing husband was straddling me, holding a gun to my head. "Anya," he whispered. The Orbit voice was gone, replaced by the confused, terrified voice of my husband. "Nathan?" We stared at each other. The silence was louder than a gunshot. He slowly lowered the gun. He let go of my wrists. He sat back on his heels, looking like a man who had just woken up from a fever dream. "You." He pointed the gun vaguely at the wall, then engaged the safety with a practiced click that no civilian should know. "You're Nix. You're Orbit." I sat up, rubbing my bruised wrists. "You own a torture dungeon under a laundromat." "It's a casino," he protested, sounding hurt. "And I'm a silent partner." "You kicked a gun out of my hand." I shouted, the absurdity of the situation catching up to me. "You nearly broke my arm." "You said you were watering the plants." "I was." Nathan yelled back. "I watered them before I flew here." "And you? You said you were at a logistics conference in Reno. You're wearing a dress with a slit up to your hip and throwing dinner forks at my head." He looked at me, betrayal warring with shock. "The tie," he whispered. "The blue tie." I covered my face with my hands. "I strangled a hedge fund manager with it." "I didn't cheat on you, Nathan." "I killed a guy." Nathan stared at me for a long, agonizing second. Then, a smile broke across his face. A genuine, radiant smile. "Oh, thank God," he breathed, pulling me into a crushing hug. "I was so worried. I thought you didn't love me anymore." I sat there, stiff in the arms of the world's deadliest assassin, completely baffled. You're okay with this?" I mumbled into his velvet suit. "I'm a killer, Nathan. I've lied to you for 3 years." "Baby," he pulled back, cupping my face. "I've killed 300 people. I once took out a dictator with a teaspoon. I was terrified you would leave me if you found out I wasn't what did you call me? A gentle soul?" "I killed a spider for you," I said accusingly. You stood on a chair. "I hate spiders," he said seriously. "That part wasn't an act. Humans are easy. Spiders are unpredictable." He kissed me. It wasn't the soft, domestic kiss we shared in the kitchen. It was fierce, passionate, and tasted of danger. "So," he murmured against my lips. "You're here for Kavi?" "He's my contract." "He's mine too," Nathan said. "But he's annoying me. He's been cheating at the tables." "I know. I was helping him. I noticed." Nathan stood up and offered me a hand. "Shall we finish this? Dinner is going to be late, but I think we can make it up." I took his hand. "Together? Mr. and Mrs. Orbit," he grinned. "Has a nice ring to it." Part 4, The Anniversary Gift. We walked out of the private suite. The dynamic had shifted. Nathan didn't walk behind me. He walked beside me. He adjusted his cufflinks. Kavi is heading to the VIP exit. He thinks he's clear. He has 4 guards, I said, checking the load on my pistol. 5, Nathan corrected. There's a sniper in the rafters. I'll take the sniper and the 2 on the left. You take the right? Deal. We moved through the back corridors of the club. It was terrifying how well we worked together. We didn't need to speak. A tilt of his head, a shift in my stance, we communicated in the language of violence. We burst into the loading bay. Kavi was just stepping into an armored SUV. Orbit! Kavi screamed, seeing Nathan. Nathan didn't hesitate. He raised his Glock. 2 shots, thwip thwip. The sniper in the rafters fell. 2 more shots. The guards on the left dropped. I slid across the hood of a parked car, taking out the remaining guards with precise shots to the knees and heads. Kavi tried to scramble back into the car, but Nathan was there. He moved like smoke. He yanked the car door open and dragged Kavi out by his collar. Kavi fell to the concrete, looking up at the 2 of us. Who are you people? He sobbed. Nathan put an arm around my waist, pulling me close. He looked at Kavi with those cold, frostbit eyes, then looked at me with pure warmth. We're just a married couple working through some trust issues, Nathan said. We raised our guns together. 2 hours later, we were on a private jet, Nathan's jet, apparently, flying back home. I was curled up in his lap, cleaning a smudge of gunpowder off his cheek. So, I said. The savings account? The family money? Blood money, he admitted. Offshore accounts. Enough to buy a small country. And the cooking? I actually like cooking, he said defensively. It's relaxing. Chopping onions is very similar to, well, anatomy. I laughed, resting my head on his shoulder. I was going to buy you a watch for our anniversary. I bought you an island, Nathan said casually. In the Caribbean. It has a bunker. I love you. I love you too, Nix. My phone buzzed. It was Lilith. Did you get the job? Rumor is Orbit disappeared. Kavi is dead. Police are confused. I typed back. Job done. Orbit sends his regards. I tossed the phone aside. Nathan tightened his arms around me. Next week, he whispered, it's my turn to kill the spider. Don't push it, honey, I smirked. You stick to the cooking. I'll handle the bugs.